is evil.
Videos of Stropman providing care to some of the abused babies played in court. They show her sitting down on the floor while holding a baby she was feeding and then falling over onto her side while still holding the baby.
Dominique Hackey, the father of one of the Henrico doctor's NICU babies, found to have broken bones in 2023, concerned that it has taken so long for justice.
I remember her being in the room. She was friendly. She answered questions, but she didn't stay and talk like the other NICU nurses did. She wasn't family like the other NICU nurses were.
Stropman was put on paid administrative leave by the hospital for a year after the 2023 cases of NICU abuse came to light, and then was allowed to return in late 2024. Hackey saying the hospital should be held accountable as well.
Because that shouldn't have happened. If they were suspicious of some person enough to let them go, they shouldn't have brought them back. So that's on them. They failed. Simple.
Families of some of the young victims from both 2023 and 2024 were present for Stropman's arraignment, seen leaving the courtroom in tears, some hugging each other for comfort.
She is evil.
Stropman's attorney said Stropman was using a technique on the babies to relieve gas that she had learned from other nurses in the hospital, but the Commonwealth said that method was not supposed to be used on NICU babies. In terms of sentencing, the Commonwealth is asking the judge to impose a sentence of no more than 3 years behind bars. Commonwealth's attorney Shannon Taylor said that all of the families agreed to that term in the plea agreement. Now, the sentencing will be held on June 5th here in Henrico County at 11 a.m.
I cannot believe what I'm reading, and I refuse to let this one go under the rug. So this is a nurse in Virginia. She's 26 years old. Her name is Erin Stropman. Now, she was just charged with malicious wounding and felony child abuse. She was intentionally breaking the bones of Black newborns in the NICU. Now, these babies were already fragile. They're fighting for their lives in intensive care, and the mothers trusted staff to take care of their newborn children. And she betrayed that trust in the most horrific way imaginable. So back in November, doctors discovered that 3 newborns had just unexplainable fracture. And this is not even her first time doing this, because back in 2023, 4 babies in the same NICU had unexplained fractures as well. So that's 7 Black babies with unexplained broken bones in the same NICU. And one baby in particular, this is Noah. Noah was born premature. So then the parents noticed that not only was his leg discolored, but then he just stopped moving his leg altogether. And when Noah got an x-ray, they showed that he had a fracture. And can you imagine, the parents were so afraid to hold their own baby because they didn't want to be accused of child abuse. And one mother even lost her baby. And I just have so many questions. Why wasn't this caught sooner? Did you purposely get a job at a NICU? And how did this go on for over a year? And why aren't you getting charged with a hate crime? You targeted 7 Black babies, some of the most vulnerable lives in our community. And to make it clear, she was denied bond, but that's not enough. The family needs answers. The families deserve justice, and we not finna just let this one go. Now, these babies can't speak for themselves, but we can. My heart goes out to the families involved, and I just pray
to that nurse that was harming those Black babies in the NICU, breaking their bones, I hope that you get everything that you deserve in jail. That is sick, okay? Like, to have an individual like that working in a hospital is crazy. And we have to have better mental health checks for these people that are working in the hospitals, nurses, doctors, whoever. Because there's no way that the place that you go to for help for your child is the same place where you end up having your child be worse than they were. It's crazy, and it makes me mad because when I see a child, all I want to do is protect. But there's people working in the hospital with a demon in them like that just want to harm you or your child. It's crazy. It's stressful to think about it, and it's just super sad. And something gotta give. Something gotta be better. Like, oh my God.
I'm not even going to lie to you guys. I've reacted to a lot of stories on this channel, but this is one of the most disturbing things I've ever read. A NICU nurse, someone trusted with newborn babies, is being accused of breaking their legs. Like, I need you to process that. These are not toddlers. These are not kids running around. These are babies who can't even lift their own heads. And you're telling me someone was hurting them? Let's get into this. This happened in the US, inside a NICU. Now, for those who don't know what a NICU is where they take premature babies, babies with complications, babies that literally need machines to survive. So already we're talking about the most vulnerable human beings. And you know what makes this worse? Parents are not always there. They leave their babies in the care of nurses because they trust the system. So doctors start noticing something strange. Babies are coming back with broken bones, bruises, injuries that don't make sense. Let's stop right there. How does a newborn break a bone? Oh, wait. Exactly. They can't. So already, this is not normal. Now, this is where it gets crazy. Because at first it was like, okay, maybe something went wrong. But then it kept happening again and again. And at that point, you can't ignore it. So investigators start checking who was on shift, who handled the babies, and guess what? The same name kept popping up. Erin Stratman.
I've helped deliver, tend to resuscitate hundreds of babies in my career. Do you know how hard you have to lay across a baby to break a femur? She's going to serve up to 54 months in prison for this. If it were up to me, you would be facing 54 years in prison. You were given the opportunity, the skills, the knowledge to take care of children in the NICU, our most prized and precious humans, and you hurt them. The families that trusted you, you hurt them. And you're going to get out of prison, be given the opportunity to probably change your name, and go on with a different career, right? Well, we hope and pray that these boys have no long-lasting, life-altering issues due to these injuries. I just can't sometimes.
This 26-year-old monster, Erin Elizabeth Ann Stratman from Virginia, was arrested on malicious wounding and felony child abuse as she was going around the NICU breaking the bones of black babies. I cannot make this up. As if black women didn't have enough to worry about when giving birth. In 2021 alone, the maternal mortality rate for non-Hispanic black women in the U.S. was 69.9 deaths per 100,000 live births. This is nearly 3 times the rate of non-Hispanic white women. Studies say some of the contributing factors to this are the cumulative physiological effects of chronic stress. Nobody's disrespected more than black women in this country. Nobody has more obstacles and barriers to face in this country, to overcome in this country, than black women. But I dare to say that the number one reason is because of racial bias in healthcare.
When black people come on the internet and they start talking about issues and they bring up race, it's always, the comments always, why y'all gotta bring up race? It doesn't have anything to do with race. It always has to do with race. When it comes to healthcare, black women are not treated equally. We are not seen. We have to go above and beyond to be taken seriously. Our mortality rate when it comes to pregnancy is higher. Our babies aren't safe in the hospital. We are not taken seriously. Not only are we not taken seriously, we are directly being attacked. We are directly being attacked. And people like to say, oh, it's in the past. It's not in the past. The people who had these ideologies and hated black people so much, what do you think they taught their children? People are like, oh, there's laws that's in place now to prevent these things from happening. They ended slavery and they kept them enslaved. Oh, but there was a law. There was a law. They literally ended slavery. And some people said, nah, we're going to keep them. No.
Erin Elizabeth Ann Stratman, right? Snapping the bones of newborn black babies. Yeah, she just got released on a $25K bond. Mm-hmm. And you know the only reason why she got released is because she was doing it to black babies. It was black newborns. That's why. See, when they were breaking this story to whoever actually got to see it, they purposely withheld the information of the race, the identity, the ethnic race of the babies that she was abusing. Because they didn't want it to be out there. They didn't want it to be out there that this white racist nurse was over here snapping the bones of black babies. But see, no matter how hard they try, they can't hide the pattern in her behavior. They can't hide the pattern in her behavior. The 9 families, they were black. And they're saying that she won't be able to ever obtain another job as a health professional. Who gives a fuck? Who cares? Who cares? There's blood on that woman's hands. There's the death of infants. You understand? On that woman's, on her conscience. I don't give a damn if she ever works a day in her life. She needs to be in prison. That's where she needs to be.
Listen, one time, maybe coincidence, but multiple babies, that's a pattern. Now, when I read about the footage, I had to pause. Because this is where it stops being maybe and start becoming, what are we even looking at? They said she was seen handling babies roughly, using force, applying pressure. I'm trying not to get angry, honestly, but imagine your child is fighting for your life, and the person assigned to protect them is doing this. That's evil. I'm sorry, that's just pure evil. So let's actually talk about, because this is deeper than just a crime. This is about trust. Parents leave their babies there thinking, my child is safe. Meanwhile, something like this is happening behind closed doors. That's scary. That's really scary, because if it can happen there, it can happen anywhere. Now here's another part people online have been talking about. Some of the babies involved were black. And that raises questions. People are asking, was this random? Or was there some kind of bias? Now listen, I'm not here to jump to conclusions, but I will say this. When patterns show up, people are going to ask questions. And honestly, they have the right to.
As a doctor, let me be really clear about the medicine. Injuries like these are really rare in NICU settings. Premature infants cannot generate enough energy to get repeated fractures, especially rib fractures. And this is where history matters, because when children show up with injuries like this, and the suspected caregiver is a parent, especially a black parent, medicine moves fast. CPS is called, families move fast, and suspicion is immediate. When harm happens inside the hospital from someone in scrubs, the response slows. Medicine moves differently depending on who is suspected and whose pain is believed. This isn't speculation. A major pediatric emergency medicine study showed that black children with the same pain scores as white children were significantly less likely to receive pain medication and less likely to receive opioids even for severe pain. To me, this case isn't just a criminal proceeding. It's about who medicine is trained to trust, who is trained to doubt, and how medicine moves when harm comes from within.
And now here's the part that matters to me, because again, I am a black nurse and I have to put this in context. Multiple reports and families have stated that these harmed infants were black babies. Whether prosecutors label it racial targeting or not, the impact is not neutral. So if I, as a black nurse, were accused of breaking the bones of 9 NICU babies that happen to be white, there is no universe where this ends quietly with a capped sentence and a plea deal. So I would face immediate license suspension, aggressive prosecution, public assumption of guilt, and likely far harsher sentencing. So this isn't about hypotheticals, it's about patterns. 9 babies were harmed. Families trusted a system that failed them, and the consequences still don't match the gravity of the harm.
You guys should know that Erin Stratman, the nurse who broke the bones of 9 black infants in the NICU unit in Virginia, is only going to get a maximum of 3 years in prison.
Now, let's talk about her side. Because their lawyers are saying she loved her job. But then, they also admitted she probably caused injuries. Wait. So you didn't mean to, but you did it. Now how does that even work? How does that even work? Make it make sense to me. And this part is where people got mad. She entered a no contest plea, and the possible sentence around 3 years. 3 years for multiple babies being injured. I'm sorry. That doesn't sit right with me at all. Now let's talk about the really got people heated, the consequences. So after everything, after multiple babies were injured, after investigations, footages, and charges, Erin Stratman ended up taking a no contest plea, which basically means she accepts punishment, but she doesn't fully admit guilt. And here's what she got. Convicted of multiple felony child abuse counts, facing up to around 3 years in prison, permanent ban from working as a nurse. That's what she got. 3 years. 3 years. 1, 2, 3. For harming multiple newborn babies. But I'm going to ask you something real, guys. If this was your child, would that feel like justice? Because for a lot of people, it doesn't. Now, to be balanced, some people argue it's hard to prove intent. She didn't plead guilty outright. The legal systems sometimes reduce sentences with plea deals. And yes, that's true. That's true. But at the same time, we are not talking about a misunderstanding. We are talking about repeated harm, multiple victims, extremely vulnerable babies. So the question becomes, is the justice system focused more on what can be proven or what actually happened? Because those two things are not always the same. For me, this case is one of those that leaves you uncomfortable. Not just because of what happened, but because of how it ended. Because sometimes the punishment doesn't match the pain. I want to hear from you.
Go read up on all the gory details. I don't need to explain them here, but what I think is really key is that this is indicative of a deeper problem, right? That the fact that this nurse was able to get away with this for so long, right? She even at one point did this to several babies, had training, it never was reported, and came back and did it to more babies, right? And then finally, after, the second batch having a lot of the same kind of injuries that the first batch had, were they able to pinpoint it to her?
But let's not just focus on her, because here's the uncomfortable truth. This didn't happen once. This happened multiple times, which means people missed signs, reports were delayed, systems failed, and that's a problem, because hospitals are supposed to be the safest place. At the end of the day, this story leaves a bad feeling, a gut-wrenching feeling, because it reminds you that not everyone you trust should be trusted. And that's scary. So I want to hear from you. Do you think justice was served? Is 3 years enough? Or is there something deeper going on here? Drop your thoughts below. And if you want more real and filtered reactions like this, subscribe. And I'll see you in the next one.